Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what has to be one of the most incredible, gritty comeback stories happening in professional sports right now. We're tracking the journey of a 19-year-old Russian tennis phenom, Alina Korneeva. Now, if you follow the tour, you absolutely know the name. But the actual timeline behind her recent explosion back onto the scene, well, that's something we really need to unpack to fully appreciate. To really grasp the magnitude of this whole story, we've got to jump straight to the National Bank Open in Toronto. This was just in August of 2026. Picture this. On one side of the net, you've got Emma Navarro, the established 23rd seed playing in a massive WTA 1000 event. And on the other side, Alina Korneeva, ranked number 89 in the world, an absolute underdog who had to grit her way just through the qualifiers to get there. On paper, Korneeva was supposed to be a quick footnote in this tournament. But instead, she made a massive statement. I mean, just look at the sheer dominance of that scoreline. 6-2, 6-2. Korneeva locked down her first ever career top 30 victory in barely over an hour, literally 1 hour and 16 minutes to be exact. It sent this undeniable shockwave across the rest of the tour, basically saying, hey, I am back. Which really begs a totally fascinating question. How exactly did a former prodigy just fall off the radar completely, only to storm back to the absolute top of the game in a single week in Toronto? Well, to understand the comeback, we have to look at just how high her peak was in the first place and exactly how far she fell. So let's rewind a bit to early 2023. Korneeva wasn't just some promising junior player. She was the undisputed world #1 junior. She actually pulled off something that hadn't been done in 23 years. We're talking back-to-back junior Grand Slam singles titles. She captured the Australian Open in January and then completely rolled through Roland Garros in June. Now, that victory at the Australian Open, it was not an easy cruise by any stretch. She found herself up against another 15-year-old Russian prodigy, Mira Andreeva, in what turned into a legendary 3-hour and 18-minute marathon battle. They pushed each other to the absolute limit. The final score was a grueling 6-7, 6-4, 7-5. Honestly, at the time, everyone watching thought they were witnessing the birth of a generational rivalry. But as we all know, professional sports can be incredibly cruel, and their paths violently split after that match. While Mira Andreeva took that momentum and just skyrocketed straight into the top 50 by the end of 2023, Korneeva's trajectory completely hit a wall. She was struck by these devastating physical setbacks that derailed her career literally just as it was taking off. We're talking about a terrifying injury abyss. First, she had to undergo a massive wrist surgery in 2024 that knocked her totally out of competition for 7 grueling months. Then, just when she thought she was finally ready to get back out there in 2025, she suffered an adductor tear, sidelining her for another 5 months. When you add that up, that is nearly 2 whole seasons essentially wiped off the map. The physical pain is one thing, right? But the mental toll of sitting out that long was devastating. Korneeva actually admitted, and this is heartbreaking, she said, I didn't want to see other players, not even winning, just playing. Everyone playing and me doing nothing. She literally stopped watching tennis altogether, just trapped in this awful uncertainty while doctors kept telling her she just needed more time. But thankfully, she wasn't entirely alone in the dark. She was training at the Rafa Nadal Academy under coach Anabel Medina Garrigues, and her team threw her a desperately needed lifeline. She said, they were repeating to me every day, you're still young, you're just 17. And you know what? That daily reminder provided the exact perspective she needed to survive 15 months of being unable to play. And that specific mindset, that acceptance, it laid the entire groundwork for what happened next. Enter 2026, and an explosive, almost unbelievable resurgence right back up the rankings. The momentum she built is just undeniable. Think about this. She started 2026 way down the ladder at rank 210. By June, she shattered the top 100 for the very first time, coming in at number 96. And by August, she had surged all the way up to number 75. It was absolute proof that her fundamental talent never left her. And these breakthroughs happened fast. In February, she captured her first ever WTA 125 title in Oeiras. Then in July, she completely dominated the inaugural Manama Open in Bahrain. I mean, she dropped a brutal 6-4, 6-0 score on Fiona Ferro in the final. And if that wasn't enough, she immediately backed it up with a deep semifinal run at the WTA 250 in Athens. So heading into August, she was holding an insane win-loss record of 35-13. This wasn't some fluke winning streak. This was hard, statistical proof that her game was highly consistent, match-tested, and incredibly dangerous, right before she stepped onto that court in Toronto. Which brings us right back from circle to that jaw-dropping victory over Emma Navarro. Reflecting on it, Korneeva said, "1 year ago, I was playing against players outside the top 100. It's different when you play against players outside the top 100 and then you can beat someone in the top 30. You can just hear the profound confidence she drew from comparing her darkest struggles to her massive new triumph. But, along with that confidence comes a really hard-earned maturity. She noted, "I'm just always thinking that I want to take care of this confidence, to don't lose it, because it's very easy to lose the confidence, and it's also very easy to gain it. After losing 2 prime years to injury, she knows exactly how fast it can all disappear, and she is fiercely protective of her mental state now." Stepping away from the baseline for a second, the person behind the player is honestly just as fascinating. Like, how does a fierce competitor like this find balance? Well, surprisingly, she builds tiny things. Seriously, she crafts these intricate miniature wooden models in her spare time. We're talking little cafeterias complete with tiny tables and chairs. It is such a wild contrast from crushing forehands past top-tier opponents. She also makes these highly detailed, painstaking mosaics. It's this quiet, methodical way for her to practice intense focus, far away from the chaos of professional tennis. And those painstaking crafts connect perfectly to her ultimate mantra. She said, "The key word of the last 3 years is acceptance. Accept and be patient." To come back from back-to-back major surgeries and literally rebuild a career from scratch at 19, well, it requires the exact same meticulous patience it takes to glue thousands of tiny mosaic tiles together, one by one. The big takeaway here honestly goes way beyond tennis. Alina Korneeva is a walking masterclass in patience and power. She went to the absolute mountaintop as a junior, fell into the deepest, darkest valleys of injury, and just systematically clawed her way back. It's such a powerful reminder of what quiet, patient acceptance can yield in our own lives when we're dealing with major setbacks. Which leaves us with one incredibly exciting question. What heights will this unstoppable 19-year-old conquer next? The tennis world is watching closely, and so are we. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.